I do live event productions, and typically whenever I'm showing up for a live event or planning out that event with an organization, the first thing they're going to want to know is the number of viewers, right? So that's a pretty simple metric to gather, and that's usually going to be concurrent number of viewers. They will likely want to know the location of those viewers as well. Where were they? Since I do a lot of streaming for the British Columbia government, the provincial government, they'd like a lot of those ministry broadcasts are for internal government employees, and they'd even want it broken down within the province, like how many people from the north end of the province attend it, because largely webcasts are done so they don't have to pay the cost of travel, right? Use taxpayer money to travel. No, just get hire a crew like me. It's going to be a lot cheaper to live stream. So knowing the location of those viewers. And lastly, and again, there's other information, but these, again, the stakeholders that I typically work with, they want to know something about the quality of experience if I can give it to them. And that would largely be like, was there a lot of buffering going on, especially for a live stream? That's not so great because unless you have DVR added to that mix, you don't really get a do-over. People might just stop watching the stream and say, whatever, I'll wait for the VOD when it's available. And more importantly, I think for me, as I'm getting deeper into analytics, is understanding more of those switches in bitrate renditions, right? How many people were watching low resolution, how many were watching high resolution, middle resolutions, all those kind of tiers of analytics. Unfortunately, I don't have an example of that last category, quality of experience, to show you in any kind of meaningful way, although some of the vendors I'm going to talk about could show it for you. And of course, the other thing they want is that they don't want to pay for it, right? They're like, oh wait, we have to pay for these analytics. Forget about it. Just give us your best guess, or whatever. Give us what of those requirements. What can you tell us? Because they don't want to have to pay on top of anything else that I would be doing for them. So how does the typical analytics data flow work? Well, you got to collect data. In a lot of situations, those are called collectors in various analytics workflows and vendors. So you got to figure out what events you want to gather, buffering, paused. You might want to collect session ID, user ID, bytes streamed, agent used, just as a starting point. You got to store that data somehow after you've collected it from your player, putting it into some kind of log file, maybe a database entry. And then you got to be able to query that data and know how to query the data for useful fields that those data points earlier gathered, because as I will show you, it's easy to gather data, right? I should say it's easy, but that's the easiest part of this whole equation. It's doing something meaningful with it afterwards. And then after you figure out how you're going to query that data, that just returns back results. That's how you're going to visualize that so it becomes something meaningful to a stakeholder.